What you listening to, son?
I don't think you like it.
Well, why not? I like this new generation of music.
When you think about the idea of what a TV soundtrack might sound like, a couple different things might come to mind. Most shows generally adopt the model of your average movie soundtrack, compiling songs that can be heard throughout the course of the episode's runtime and credits. But it was back in the 1970s that popular TV programs gave rise to the concept of the novelty or companion album, whose influence would make its way into the 90s revival of the genre in some pretty interesting ways. A lot of the albums made during this 90s boom were commissioned during a show's infancy, leaving little content for creators to work with or draw from. That being said, despite the cynical nature of these products' existence, many creative teams seem to find a way to inject some real heart and care into these albums, while even occasionally leading to some minor mainstream success within the short shelf life of their relevance. Today, I'd like to take a look at one such soundtrack for one of the greatest animated sitcoms of all time. This soundtrack didn't exactly make a huge splash in the pop culture stratosphere, but for all the strange and baffling decisions in its composition, still manages to have its fair share of redeeming qualities. More importantly, I want to take a look at the songs that weren't included. Over the 13 years of its production, King of the Hill built a rich tapestry of memorable musical moments that played a pivotal role in the identity of the show, the evolution of the characters, and the overall enjoyment of these stories as a whole. And I think these are things that are worth highlighting and deserve their due. So dust off your Discman, crack open an Alamo, and join me on a journey through the musical history of King of the Hill. These are songs in the key of Arlen. The King of the Hill soundtrack was released on November 2nd of 1999, just a few months into the show's 4th season. Titled King of the Hill, music from and inspired by the TV series King of the Hill, very few of the selections featured on the album actually appear in the show's run. Of the 15 songs featured, the majority are covers of classic rock and country songs performed by contemporary artists, usually bookended by short audio skits performed by members of the King of the Hill voice cast. These skits are honestly pretty fun and worth checking out on their own. A lot of the record does a pretty good job staying in the vein of what you'd expect from an album inspired by the themes and characters from King of the Hill. 2 singles were released in the form of Travis Tritt and George Thorogood covering Thorogood's 1978 classic, Move It On Over, and most memorably, the Bare Naked Ladies contributing one of the few original songs to the soundtrack with Get in Line, a song with a narrative focus around themes of paranoia that could vaguely be associated with one of the show's most popular characters, Dale Gribble, or at least enough to make a pretty fun music video centered around him. It's also memorable for featuring one of the most horrifying and truly cursed animation sequences in the show's history. The album does feature a number of songs by artists that had at the time or would later appear on the show as cameos, such as Willie Nelson and Brooks and Dunn. Deana Carter of Strawberry Wine fame provides a cover of Tom Petty's Free Fallin', while Trace Adkins covers Leonard Skinner's I Know a Little. Little would the showrunners know at the time that both Petty and Adkins would go on to become key characters in the King of the Hill mythology, but we'll get to them later. Outside of B&L's Get in Line, there are 2 other original songs featured, including Sheryl Crow's Straight to the Moon, which seems extremely out of place from the rest of the album, has no connection lyrically or thematically to the show or any of the other songs, and seems like it would probably fit better in the background of one of the many MTV animated shows of the time, such as Daria, Clone High, Undergrads, or Mission Hill. The only other original track on the album is also one of the only 3 songs actually performed by cast members, which brings us into a whole other category of weird. Most cartoon television soundtracks usually feature a list of songs predominantly performed by the show's cast members, often taken directly from musical numbers featured in episodes. King of the Hill decided to go in a radically different and frankly baffling direction with these choices, having Hank Hill perform the heartbreaking 1970s Red Sovine spoken word country ballad Teddy Bear, whose premise centers around a paraplegic boy recounting his sad tale to truckers over the CB radio, and Luanne doing her rendition of the 1960s anti-war anthem One Tin Soldier. The real highlight of this record, though, has to be Mow Against the Grain. Credited to the Hill family singers, a pair of these songs sung by a cross-section of different cast members based on spoken word 90s phenomenon, Everybody's Free to Wear Sunscreen. This song is probably pretty confusing to anyone who wasn't alive to experience the Sunscreen song's massive success and inescapable presence throughout 1998, as it seems to have completely vanished from the public consciousness, but feels pretty on brand for King of the Hill and its indulgence of fads and cultural crossovers of the time. Outside of the Refreshments theme, there seem to be about 3 songs from the soundtrack that actually appear in the show. Willie Nelson's original version of Angels Flying Too Close to the Ground, without Mark McGrath, can be heard behind Peggy and Luanne's heart-to-heart talk in Wings of the Dope, in the background on the radio. Thorogood and Tritt's version of Move It On Over appears in the bar scene with Hank and Hal in the episode Not in My Back Ho, in the background on the radio. And finally, Trace Adkins' version of I Know a Little appears in Bills Are Made to Be Broken, in the scene where Peggy and Ricky Sudds interact at the Heimlich County Physical Therapy Center, in the background on the radio. Although Leonard Skinner's version of the song is featured prominently in the episode where the guys set up the alley couch, that is about the extent of the connections between the album and the show. Although the album holds up okay as a strange novelty from the era, as a teen King of the Hill fan at the time, I wasn't exactly enthralled by the idea of hearing contemporary country artists like Faith Hill and Brooks and Dunn covering Bob Seger and Janis Joplin songs. At least not to the extent that I am now. And for a show that seemed to generally try to aim their merchandising towards a young adult demographic, it's hard to imagine who these choices were really trying to appeal to. King of the Hill may not have had the sprawling, grandiose musicality of shows like The Simpsons or Bob's Burgers, but music seemed to be an aspect that was often spotlighted in a more grounded manner to help develop the characters and give us a clearer window into who they really are. I feel like an album that tried to encompass and somewhat showcase the characters' musical journey through the context of the show may have made for more relevant content for fans in the market for a King of the Hill soundtrack. Although a lot of the show's great musical moments and potential soundtrack opportunities wouldn't come till much later in the series' run, let's take a look at some of the great songs featured within the show, sang by the show's cast, and often written specifically for the purpose of the episode's narratives. Looking at the early years, Hank and Peggy were easily the characters who were most highlighted in their love and journey through music. As early as episode 4 in the series' run, we're introduced to Hank's guitar Betsy, who he's extremely protective of, apparently brought to prom with him.
I took her to the prom.
And is at this point what would become one of the many rivalries of Peggy Hill. Hank goes so far as to cite Willie Nelson as his hero, and given the progression of the episode, would seem to set up the idea of a Hank Hill-Willie Nelson duet for the soundtrack as kind of a hole-in-one. Instead, they went with Mark McGrath. Now, to be fair, although McGrath might seem like an odd choice, there's a great skit introducing the song explaining that Bobby and Hank were both tasked with picking one singer for the particular duet. It's a nice nod to the ongoing theme of the show reconciling the differences between Bobby and Hank's budding generational worldviews, and just an overall good time. But it might have also been fun to include a version of Hank's Peg Leg somewhere, maybe even an extended cut with a full band, even though in Hank's words,
Well, then it just sort of goes off into a Buddy Holly riff.
It's also made clear a few times throughout the course of the show that Hank is a fan of The Gambler.
Play the Gambler!
Maybe let's hear a full version of Hank and Drew Carey's Hal doing their own rendition of the song.
And the night got deathly quiet, and his face lost all expression. Said if you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right.
Honestly, come to think of it, that would pretty perfectly complement the dynamic of Hank and Hal's pseudo-romantic relationship arc. Knowing when to hold 'em, knowing when to fold 'em. At the very least, who wouldn't want to hear drunk Hank and Lucky rip out a full-length version of Baby Come Back?
You can blame it all on me. I was wrong,
And I just can't live without you. A new rule, you can't listen to my song anymore. I'm having so much fun, you guys.
Hank was still fortunate enough to have his own solo track on the album, as did Luanne, which seems like a particularly odd choice as, don't get me wrong, I love Luanne, and rewatching the series, you can see that she really brings a lot of heart to the show and has easily become one of my favorite characters over time. But Luanne's connection to the musical landscape of the show seems pretty much limited to her interactions with Lucky in his role in Big Mountain Fudge Cake and as the author of the Manger Babies theme song, which is admittedly hilarious and would have made a great addition to the soundtrack.
Manger babies.
Brittany Murphy was a rising star at this point, and I appreciate the opportunity to get to hear her sing her heart out through the voice of Luanne. But when putting together a compilation of King of the Hill music this early in the show's run, it really begs the question, where's Peggy? With the exception of 3 lines in Mow Against the Grain, Peggy's absence on the record seems especially notable given that she's had 2 entire episodes dedicated to her passion and character development through songwriting. In Season 2's Peggy's Turtle Song, the whole premise of the episode is literally about Peggy trying to find a voice through music.
And it's left me with some time to fill.
Filling time. Yeah, that's what I thought I was doing when I started playing music. Turned out I was really looking for a voice to scream with.
Well, I don't know if my husband would appreciate screaming in the house, but let's see.
This episode also features guest star and 90s folk icon Annie DeFranco as Peggy's punk rock guitar teacher. These two play off each other really well, and I think would have made a perfect duo playing together on the album. Gotta give props to the girl who plays right before Peggy at the open mic, as this would have made for a hilarious bumper to play right before their track.
Met a guy in my boxing class. I slept with him before I kicked his ass.
Peggy's second musical outing, Season 4 finale Peggy's Fanfare, which was released just 6 months after the soundtrack, seems like kind of a no-brainer as far as what could have worked both conceptually and as a launchpad for a potential King of the Hill album. There's an engaging storyline with a built-in single in This Is Just the Way God Made Me, ready to be performed by both Peggy and Randy Travis, a cavalcade of country music's top artists as guest stars, and most of the show's audience tuning in for the season finale set on the backdrop of a big fun concert spectacular. It feels like the perfect opportunity to engineer something akin to the success of South Park's Chef Aid, which was released just a year previous and was both a commercial hit and kind of a big deal for the show and its fans at the time. I guess it makes sense that they might not want to hedge their bets on releasing a full soundtrack album on the back of what was becoming one of the show's more divisive characters, but Peggy lives and breathes music. She was even writing songs about proper etiquette at the fanfare.
Fanfare can be funfair, but if you don't wait your turn in line, well, that's unfair.
I'm looking at you, Charlie Daniels. And who can deny the wisdom and skill she acquired from the great DJ Spaz from 3:10 to 5 p.m. at the Learning Annex didn't more than pay off.
That's right, I served you cake. I'm Peggy. Pull your leggy.
But sadly, Peggy was mostly relegated to the sidelines of the album.
Well, Hank doesn't want me anywhere near the final jam concert. He said he was afraid I'd take a swing at Faith Hill for stealing our last name.
The idea of the Hills being related to a celebrity with the same last name is pretty funny, and thankfully a premise that the show this grounded would never...
It's Dusty.
Dusty Hill?
We're related to ZZ Top? Do it again! Do it again!
Stop spinning my son! That tears it!
But going back to the first few seasons, another missed opportunity in including actual episode content comes in Season 2's The Man Who Shot Kane Skretteberg, a now mostly forgotten episode that featured then punk rock sensation Green Day in the story Spotlight as Kane and the Stubborn Stains.
Peace.
I remember this episode being promoted to death growing up, and as a huge Green Day fan at the time, this was 100% effective in the cross-promotion they were trying to achieve in bringing punk rock to Arlen. On me, anyway. I was looking forward to it all week. I remember being really confused on why they got Trey to be the lead singer. But in any case, a little medley of... and maybe some... would have been fun, I think. As Bobby would attest to. And that brings us to Bobby Hill, a character with probably the least direct involvement in music on the show, but perhaps the biggest impact. Outside of the fact that Bobby clearly loves to jam out, get down, and on certain occasions perhaps even get funky, Bobby doesn't really seem to have very much acumen or interest in actually playing music. That being said, through the process of compiling research for this video, I came to the realization that even though Bobby is rarely a part of the music being presented, he's very often been the catalyst for some of the most memorable musical moments in the show's run. Bobby taking Hank's guitar to try and imitate Celery Head sets into motion the events that lead to Hank getting to meet his hero and Willie Nelson's whole star-studded jamboree. Bobby's interest in Pimp Franklin.
It's Pimp Franklin, and he doesn't need your respect, Dad. He don't pay no man no mind.
Led directly to the gift that is Hank's love for Fourscore.
Hey, that's Todd.
And Bobby's extremely regrettable Johnny Glock reggae rock phase led to the show exploring the very real and horrifying phenomenon that is Christian rock.
Raise him!
Okay, so I know nobody was exactly roaring for a Christian rock song on a hypothetical King of the Hill soundtrack, but the episode Reborn to Be Wild features cameos by both Sum 41 and Gene Simmons, and the idea of these two musical forces coming together to create a horrible Christian rock song is an opportunity that seems insane to pass up. Bobby's ongoing saga even results in bringing back Kane Skretteberg for a brief cameo in Season 13. Now going by his full name, dropping the Stubborn Stains, Kane goes on to headline the Fun Zone, which I'm pretty sure is just a revamped version of the Fun Center, finally bringing their story full circle.
Peace.
Personally, I would have been more than happy to just hear Bobby and the gang sing the Propaniacs theme with maybe a Gasman skit in between songs.
Baby did a bad thing.
Two characters that are also notably absent from the soundtrack are Kahn and Connie Souphanousinphone. Kahn's karaoke in Season 2's 3 Days of the Condo was such a sensation that the concept was brought back an entire decade later for Kahn's very own karaoke-centric episode in the form of Season 12's Pour Some Sugar on Kahn. This episode also introduced us to the dangerous and streetwise rhythm of one Ted Wasana song in the karaoke classic Hot Danger.
I'm rough, I'm tough. I pop my collar up, creep, puff, jump back off. I'm telling you, back off. Hot danger, hot danger.
Kahn gets a quick line with the rest of the cast in Mow Against the Grain, but I think one of the biggest losses of not releasing the soundtrack in later seasons is missing out on Connie's big musical moment. With pressure from her parents to attend the Van Cliburn Summer Orchestra in Fort Worth, Connie becomes entranced in the world of bluegrass.
You want to throw down with a hoedown?
All this leads to one of my favorite scenes in the show, where the whole gang gets together and absolutely kills Blue Moon of Kentucky.
Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Shine on the one that's gonna prove untrue.
What I really love about this scene is how perfectly it encapsulates the feeling of connecting with other musicians in a jam. It's also nice to see Connie able to find a sense of community in her surroundings and having an opportunity to form a bond through music instead of being suffocated by the weight of its academic repercussions. On top of that, it's also great to see the rest of the Alley crew get to share in a wholesome and sincere musical moment, which seemed to be pretty few and far between.
Man, like when they come over to clean that pool, man, start going.
Got my own fine life, I got my own fiddle. Sun's coming up, I got gribble, gribble, gribble. Life ain't nothing but a funny, funny riddle.
For Bill, music was an olive branch to camaraderie. From the merry band of inmates he leads in song in Season 7's Be True to Your Fool, to aggressively creepy cult-like men's chorus, the Harmonaholics, who almost ruined Bill's entire life in Season 9. Dale doesn't do much singing in the show, but should be recognized for his role as the music department in the Propaniacs, and even fronting his own band, the Dale Gribble Bluegrass Experience, with such legendary members as the great Charlie Daniels making his second appearance on the show. But Dale's biggest role may have been managing one of Arlen, Texas's greatest hard rock bands of all time.
They've got a super boffo Bachman-Turner Overdrive meets Deep Purple versus ELO kind of sound.
John Redcorn and Big Mountain Fudge Cake. John Redcorn's musical career started pretty late in the show's run. The concept was briefly teased in a flyer in Season 7 episode The Witches of East Arlen, but we don't see the full scope of Fudge Cake until Season 9's Redcorn Gambles with His Future, where we meet the band and witness its rise and fall through the course of the episode, resulting in Redcorn eventually finding success as a children's entertainer.
Yeah, when I first found Redcorn, he was in some go-nowhere White Snake meets White Lion meets Great White rip-off group. But I recreated him as the Native American Raffi.
This course of events essentially leads to establishing a new status quo, with the character becoming a successful children's entertainer, starting his own production company, and even embarking on a partial reunion with Fudge Cake in season 13. Wait a second. Character in Terrible Rock Band changes his style to be more kid-friendly and finds success as a popular children's entertainer. Where have I heard this before?
There's a hole and a hole and a hole, big ol' hole in the pit. You're filling in the pit, yeah. I'm filling in the pit.
I guess there is that song about killing myself. I could rewrite it so it's about personal hygiene.
Tell me if this is appropriate for a kid's song. I changed the lyrics in sex hair to, you got sex bears, you got them from me, kids.
I'm on to you, Greg Daniels. Probably the most notable thing about John Redcorn's Big Mountain Fudge Cake is the fact that it featured two of the show's most active alumni and huge music industry stars as its backup band. Trace Adkins is not only one of the only artists to have his cover from the King of the Hill soundtrack actually appear on the show, he also appeared previous to Fudge Cake in his first guest role in Season 8 as Santa-like trucker Big John, and contributed an original song to the end credits of the episode in the form of the wonderful The Ballad of Hank Hill. That being said, he's undoubtedly most known to the King of the Hill audience as the recurring character he would take on later that season, cat-fisting, truck-driving redneck Elvin Mackelston, who in the same episode also cameos as himself as a cardboard cutout. Although Adkins' character Elvin took center stage in his first episode as white trash mentor of sorts to Kahn, it was one of his hillbilly cohorts who would go on to become one of the most iconic characters in the show's history. Tom Petty's impact on the show's later seasons as eventual series regular Lucky Kleinschmidt can't be understated. The original character design for Lucky being described as Tom Petty without success, the actor filled the role perfectly and went on to become a mainstay, appearing in 22 episodes and even marrying Luanne in what was originally slated at the time as the show's series finale. Now, clearly the premise of Big Mountain Fudge Cake was for John Redcorn to be in a terrible, cringy midlife crisis type band. But the concept is so much fun, and the band had so many songs.
Let's open with I Need Money. We can transition to Gotta Get Money, and do a whole money medley.
With a backup band like Tom Petty and Trace Adkins, I'd like to think that if put to task, we could get a pretty rockin' tune out of Big Mountain Fudge Cake.
Don't you like to rock?
We sure do, Lucky. We sure do.
Oh, God.
Over the course of our journey across the musical landscape of King of the Hill, there is one towering figure we have yet to mention. We can hear him in our exercise tapes and our fire safety videos. We see him all over town at our copy shops, our karaoke bars, or just out for a quiet dinner. He's there in our darkest times and our most joyous occasions. Whether playing the national anthem at the local baseball game, or jumping out of a plane in the name of savings, Chuck Mangione has been there. Making his debut early in Season 1, Chuck Mangione has been ingrained in the very fabric of King of the Hill from the start, to the point that a large number of the audience grew up unaware of his massive real-life music career, assuming him to be a fictional character created by the show. He's appeared in as many episodes or more than series mainstays such as Chain and Ted Wasana, Reverend Stroop, Buckley, and even Hank's mom. His 1977 hit Feels So Good appears so regularly throughout the course of the show's run, it's hard not to associate it directly to King of the Hill. He even lives in a megalomart. Chuck Mangione and Feels So Good have become an integral part of the King of the Hill universe. To not include one of the songs and characters most associated to so many great memories throughout the show's run onto the soundtrack, well, feels like a real slap in the face. It's hard to know exactly what Mike Judge's involvement was in the creation of songs from and inspired by the TV series King of the Hill. But we might find some insight in the audio clip that plays before Teddy Bear on the soundtrack from Hank Hill himself, stating, "You know, when I first discussed this King of the Hill CD with the folks over there at Elektra Records, I suggested doing a song called Teddy Bear by the great Red Souphanousinphone. Well, they all sort of chuckled and snickered, which I took to mean they didn't care much for Red Souphanousinphone or his music. But then I pointed out that King of the Hill is my show, and I could pull the plug on this project at any point. Long story short, they agreed, and I will now sing for you one of the greatest songs ever written." It's clear from his series Tales from the Tour Bus that Mike Judge is a very passionate and avid fan of music, and although we don't get much of the show's material on the album, I'd like to think that at the very least it's kind of neat to have a mixtape that was at least partially curated by the man behind the ideas and the voice of one of our favorite characters. Even with the ever-ongoing rumors of a King of the Hill revival in the works, it's unlikely that a revamped soundtrack would be on anyone's radar in the foreseeable future. But I hope you enjoyed this tour through the music of King of the Hill, and I hope it served as yet another reminder of why this show was so great. I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time out to watch this video. This was my first video. Will there be more video essays analyzing various pop culture phenomena in TV and movies in the future?
You bet your sweet ass.
And if you enjoyed this video, please consider donating to our Patreon to help us continue making more in the future. And like, subscribe, and share it to your friends who you think might like it.
Man, you go click, 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 click. It's real easy, man.
Thanks again for watching.